making breakthrough is a challenge. But without making breakthrough, there is no fun. And how do we try to make breakthroughs? Or what can we learn from those who made breakthrough? And in the current context, when formal and informal knowledge systems are being blended and fused, are there signals that we receive from the knowledge word of the world or knowledge economy of the world that we can follow? And my argument is that we cannot rely only on meeting the unmet need. For a long time, I argued myself, and I'm today making a departure from my well known position that we should try to meet the unmet needs. I've been saying that for all these years. But today I'm going to change this thought because I believe that there are needs that people have not felt. And if we do not serve those needs, our society cannot become aspirational. An aspirational society doesn't always know what they want. It's a job of all of us as a scientist to be able to provide them solutions. No farmer knew that a dwarf wheat existed. Green revolution wouldn't have been possible if we had gone by the felt need, felt and articulated need of the people. What can I demand? The one I am exposed to, one I have an idea about. But if I don't have an idea about solution that you can provide, then I will not be able to demand it. So naturally, we cannot restrict the development and diffusion of technologies only to the articulated demand or articulated need that people feel. We have to go beyond that. And this is major argument for today. So this picture that you see, my colleague Anamika took this picture from Thor Lake. And there is a duck here. You can imagine which one is my favorite. And the one which is walking, swimming to a destination we don't know about, without caring about the other duck. She's not seeking their approval, and she's not caring about what they say. She'll make a breakthrough. That's one quality that we need for making breakthrough. We can't pay attention all the time as to what others will say or what others will feel. A bit of a fastidiousness and a fortitudinous capacity is necessary to pursue one's own line of thinking, because you can sometimes see what others can't. And therefore, it's very important that an eye for oddity becomes. So this is what Honeybee Network has been doing, giving voice, visibility, and velocity. Voice, visibility, and velocity to the ideas from both formal and informal sector. And if we try and see that some of these ideas, I was just mentioning to DG that some of the things that you mentioned in the last half an hour, 1 hour, I was truly speaking not aware. Although I'm a follower of CSIR on Twitter. How did it escape me? I was asking myself. Why did it escape me? And I was looking at myself and introspecting in my mind, and I said, there must be something which somehow did not get my attention, limited as it is, and I don't spend too much time on social media. But about 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening, that's what I do. But it is important that if I missed it, maybe many other people missed it. So we must find ways in which the great work that is being done reaches people. And one of my arguments today will be that one of the breakthroughs that we have to make is reaching masses, not just elite, but masses. And how will we do that? How will we do that? We have to change the context so that the content changes. Same work that we're doing can become much more meaningful if we change the context in which we are doing it. And that context can be changed very interestingly. So I'll give a case of Professor Tu Youyou. And this is a case where Professor Tu Youyou from China got Nobel Prize for leveraging traditional knowledge. And what I want to therefore say is that if in the current age and current era, we do not pay attention to the knowledge of our elders in our society, I don't think ever there will be another time when we will have such a favorable environment for this. So why and how we do that is a question that can be asked. So this professor who developed Artemis-Nin, which saved millions of lives around the world, What did she do? And what are the lessons we can learn from her Nobel Prize? One of the first lessons is that when she looked at about 2,000 herbal leaves and found a plant, Artemisia annua. Incidentally, I will tell you toward the end of the story that CMAP and CDRI also worked on it. And there are 145 different brands in India which are using variants of this drug. So it was not that we were not there, but we didn't get Nobel Prize. And why didn't we get Nobel Prize is the question that I'm trying to pose. So the first thing that she did was she went to the place where people were dying of malaria. So my first suggestion for making breakthrough is immersive learning in the hot spots of the problem that you want to solve. There is no substitute to that. No amount of reading, no amount of reflection, no amount of expertise can substitute the feelings that are invoked in our heart when we meet face to face the people or the industry or the cluster that is facing the problem. My request to scientists, all those who are attending virtually or otherwise, is do visit the people, the entrepreneurs, the industries, or the communities with whom for whom we are working, and spend some time with them. At least in the regions where there is a hotspot, as you were talking about sickle cell anemia, where the incidence is highest, and you mentioned Chhattisgarh and other places, we need to go there at least for a week or so and observe the pain of the people that experience it. There's a beautiful word in our language. All languages more or less have this word, samvedana. Some means equal, Vedana means pain. When I feel somebody else's pain as much as that person feels it, it doesn't remain that person's pain, it becomes my pain. Now that I'm trying to resolve my pain, I'm not doing any favor to anybody. My ego gets sublimated. I'm now worried about my pain, my problem. And Swanta hai Sukhai, that means for my own happiness, I'm trying to reduce this pain through Sajanshilta. So innovation which will reduce my pain becomes Samvedanshil, Sajanshilta, empathetic innovations. And that brings that the joy that I get out of reducing that pain, no record, no recognition, no award, nothing in the world can match that. Because it is the feeling that you get from within is so powerful, so rejuvenating, so satisfying. So when she went there and saw the children who were dying of malaria, she asked, what do we do? So there was a second lesson here. 500 scientists from 60 labs got together. Let us ask ourselves, which is the national problem which we want to address and where we have got 60 labs? Not all of them need to be CSIR. Expertise exists in universities, expertise exists anywhere. If there's a national problem, there should be a national network. Isn't it? CSIR job is to galvanize those people from wherever they are. It may be private university, public university, it may be private institute, it may be a retired person, doesn't matter. Idea is to put this most knowledgeable people, both young and old, together so that we tackle that problem and don't get stereotyped. It's too early for what we want to do. So it's very important that network approach. And I was very happy when DJ mentioned that now there's hardly any program where at least 3 labs are not involved. But I would say, why only 3 labs? Why not people from outside the CSIR system? If you feel genuinely that there are experts whose knowledge matters, judgment is yours. But if it is, and if they are distributed in different places, see, in India, because it's a large country and resources are limited, on any one discipline, you don't have too many people in one lab. That's the way talent is scattered. And it's scattered for various reasons. I want to be close to my parents, so I chose a lab which is near my place. Or somebody has some other reason. Given those constraints and preferences of individual scientists and other people and opportunities, we need to realize that it is unlikely that all the complements will be at one place. So she found this plant. She isolated the molecule. There was some non-therapeutic element, acid content, which she had to remove. And she had the courage, as you will see, to test on herself. Now there's a problem. This drug that she has developed sometimes is able to reduce the temperature and sometimes it comes back. And she's perplexed, and all the team is perplexed. What do we do? What are we doing wrong? And that is the point at which real breakthrough takes place. She found another manuscript. The earlier one was about 1,500 to 2,000-year-old. Now she found a 700-year-old manuscript where it was mentioned that people used to use this plant after soaking it in the water overnight. She was boiling. She was making hot water extract. Can you imagine such a simple thing? But many times we have habits thinking that boiled water decoction is the one that is the way we should extract. We seldom realize that a lot of practices in our home require cold water extraction. We know that, but we don't bring it to the lab. That part of our life remains at home. When I come to office, I try to practice the hot water extraction. She was doing the same mistake. The moment she realized that, problem was solved. And the drug was developed. Now, there is another discovery that took place, and that's called derivative innovation. In TB, one of the problems is that many times when it becomes suppressed, people stop taking medicine. They think they have recovered. And then it recurs, and it recurs with vehemence. And then it becomes difficult for the earlier dose to be effective. And they don't realize it. And they continue to take the same dose when it occurs. So TB is becoming difficult to control, partly because the organism becomes dormant. They realized, this professor realized, Abramovich, that artemisinin doesn't allow TB organism to become dormant. So therefore, there is no complacency that will set into motion in the patient's mind. And therefore, they will not stop taking treatment. And therefore, they will recover faster. What I'm trying to say, one breakthrough can lead to several more breakthroughs if we observe the users of the medicine carefully and observe what is happening, in which case, what problems are happening. It is very difficult otherwise to think of that it will have anything to do with malaria, with TB, because they are two different nature of diseases. So it is important that we also look for derivative, second generation, third generation effects of the solution that we have developed and track them, and so that we can continue to discover new solutions. This is from CDRI and CMAP. Both the labs developed solution licensed to some companies, and it is being sold by Themis Chemical. And there are 145 different brand names in which artemisinin is being sold. What did we miss? First of all, we seldom have 20, 25-year-long journey on a problem. We publish a few papers and done with it. We don't persist with the problem long enough. We don't deepen the furrows as much as we open new furrows. That's one problem. Secondly, we didn't go into the details that she went through and discover the mechanism by which this molecule was or was not working effectively. We missed it. Otherwise, there was no dearth of knowledge in our country on this issue. This kind of problem was solvable by us, but we missed because we couldn't discover the process and the mechanism in as much detail as she worked. And large network of 500 scientists who worked together for 20 years, from 67 when Mao Zedong was the chairman, and he gave this problem because in Vietnam War, Vietnamese were dying because of malaria, fortunately. And that is when this problem was identified. Now I'll give you another example, another breakthrough from CSIR family. Operation Flood, this country became one of the largest producer of milk thanks to a CFTRI technology, which made it possible for converting buffalo's milk with 8%. I sent a message to Professor Prakash, a dear friend. I said, tell me the names of the two scientists who worked at that time, because I was not getting the correct name. And he said, Dr. Chandrasekhara, Ramanathan, and Subramaniam, the three scientists worked together at that time and made it possible for making the powder of buffalo milk. What is the significance of this? Now look at this. In winter, we have a lot of milk production. In summer, we have much less production. Now, winter, we don't have so much demand as we have supply. In summer, we have demand, but we don't have supply. How do we even out the supply chain? There has to be a way by which extra milk in winter can be powdered and reconditioned into milk in summer. Well-defined problem. But there was no solution in the world because all the milk that was powdered in Europe was cow's milk. It is in India that we had cows and buffalo's milk together, often mixed. Buffalo milk has 8% fat and casein, much more than the cow's milk. We could solve this problem. It has such a huge impact. If you calculate the income of the livestock keepers increased by Operation Flood, you cannot believe how many thousands of crores every year have gone in the hands of the people of this country for the last 30, 40 years. All this because of that technology. All this because of this technology. I would say that every student should be taught this case study, because then you should develop pride that, look, there have been complex problems with much less facilities, much less funding at that time, but partnership with NEDB. That was very important. Korean gave a challenge. He didn't have the answer, though he was a great mind. NEDB didn't have the answer to this problem. They had many, many good engineers and good plants, but they couldn't solve the problem. And then our scientists could solve the problem. So breakthroughs also require opportunistic response. Sometimes countries facing a challenge and we need to find a solution for that. And our priorities will have to change at that time because need of our society. And at the same time, we should realize that there are people who are close to the communities. They know about what society has needs, and we are close to science, and both need to come together. We have to be able to learn from those who are close to market. So we should not underestimate the power and of the knowledge of those who deal with farmers every day. That's what Operation Flood Amul did. They dealt with farmers every day. So they knew what kind of problems were there. Leather is another example. When there was a Supreme Court judgment, and Dr. Ramaswamy was the director, CSIR at that time, 700 units were closed overnight. Tamil Nadu. Imagine the life of those people, both not only just entrepreneurs, the workers, their families, all of them. And it required, I think, 7-8 months by the time they could develop a non-chromium-based technology for processing leather. And that solved the problem, and industry was revived. So there have been cases when there were crises in the country, and we have risen to the occasion. But somehow our ability to deliver solutions in crisis better than the normal times. And now we can't create crisis all the time. That's not fair. That creates too much of stress and too much of anxiety and too much of pressure. But in general, it is well known in other fields of our governance in our country. In crisis, we work very well. But in normal times, we slacken. And that needs to change. That temperament, the mindset needs to change. We should work with the same alacrity in the normal time as well. This is another area of breakthrough, spin in and spin off. Many times, the people who develop solution don't know what all it can do. Mouse was discovered years ago before Windows 93 came about. When we used to telnet in Unix, give commands in DOS system, there was no need for mouse. And suddenly somebody saw a mouse and then said, okay, let me create an interface where this mouse will be useful. And then the whole world changed. So many times, people who have a solution in their hand may not know what all that solution can accomplish. So it is useful to have spin-in and spin-off workshops. We did it at 3 levels. We did it with DRDO and ISRO combined. We did it separately with DRDO in 4 batches of different directors and senior scientists of DRDO, Defense Research Labs. And we asked them, what do you have that you can give to others, both strategic and non-strategic organizations? And what do you need from others? There's a gap that you have. For example, we had a polymer. When there is a bombardment on the airstrip, one of the DRDO lab can fill it, and it can dry quickly with same strength as the normal plaster is, and the plane can take off within an hour, sometimes half an hour. So that's a powerful technology. Can be used for many other purposes when we have problems in our bridges, roads, and whatever. So this quick dry cement, so to say, or polymer that they developed, like that, there are a large number of technologies whose potential cannot be fully harnessed in the context in which they have been developed. somebody else in another context can find their application. So we need to know what are the solutions that are available on the shelf, which are not going anywhere or which are not being found as much, are not finding as many users as one would like to have, and allow other people to find new uses. This can be a game which you can play with our young scientists and ask them, okay, these are the 25 different molecules. Can you find some new uses of these molecules? Unconventional uses, uses which have not been reported in literature so far. And just give your hypothesis. You don't have to have a very cogent argument. Give your hypothesis. Why do you think so? And if it seems reasonable, let's invest in it and see whether that idea works. And breakthroughs might come about. So therefore, we need to recognize that sometimes solutions within their own niche will not go very far. This is an example we did with UNDP, 115 countries, 91 labs. For example, Turkey. What did it want from India, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Jordan, Algeria, Nigeria? And they had listed different, all labs listed different problems. If we could list that, and then we can build networks around those wants that scientists or the labs have, a new kind of approach of bringing scientists together will emerge. Because it's based on what I don't have and what I need from others. Similarly, sometimes I have something and somebody else needs it and I don't know that it needs it. There were cases where technologies, solutions in near Latin America, Central America were found useful in Philippines. But that is not possible if we do not bring that possibility together. Basically, this is a very simple idea where breakthroughs can also happen if we distribute these 4 dimensions in different places. For any innovation, material, method, application, and delivery system, at least one of the 4 should be new. So if you have an insulin patch which measures the sugar in my body and then releases as much insulin as my body needs at a time, that will be a new delivery system. Same molecule, same problem. Everything else is old, manufacturing by the same method, nothing new, except the way of delivery. So there can be many solutions which may require working with labs which have expertise in designing delivery system. We have all of you must have remembered your childhood, or your niece and nephew sometime may have been given nutmeg rubbed on a stone and put on navel. How many modern drugs are delivered through navel route? But navel route is there, drug delivery route is there, valid route, and we have all experienced it, but we have never explored the possibility of modern medicines being delivered through navel route. Why? It's a time-tested route that was available to us. We take it, we put it on our body, we inject it, various methods, we inhale it, but we don't use the navel route, which has been used in our families, particularly in childhood, but also adults can use asphateria and it will help you in bowel movement. So there are some such blinkers in our mind which have prevented us from discovering new delivery routes to make some of these solutions more effective than they will be if you take orally or topical. So I would say that these all 4 things, materials may be in one lab, the manufacturing method can be in another lab, the applications can be in 3rd place, and delivery system can be in 4th place. The innovation chain need not be in one place by one person. That's what I'm trying to say. Breakthroughs may require a distributed chain. Now let me take another example. There are 85 solutions that you gave to Jal Shakti mission on water. I went through them, all of them, last night. So for example, arsenic. There are different kinds of solutions. Some are powered, some are non-powered, gravity-based. Some are domestic, some are industrial. But let's say there are 15 different solutions on arsenic. Can I bring those 15 scientists, if they are different ones, together and ask them to discuss which form, feature, or function, in which solution is the best among the 15? And I try to pool the strengths of each solution and build a robust solution, low cost, affordable, If possible, DIY, do-it-yourself solution, that will become not one lab solution, it will be the CSIR solution. We need to go that far. I was looking at iron content. There is a lab which has worked out, CMRI, I think, had developed a iron filter. When we had to show the yatra in Dhimaji in Assam, they are very high content of iron. So when people have traditional filters, they can make water clean. When you fill the water in the bottle and walk for 10 yards or 1 meter or half a kilometer, it becomes brown because of shaking of the water and oxidation. The dissolved iron gets oxidized. That means all the dissolved iron was not removed, but the precipitated iron was able to remove from the conventional system. Too much iron can cause problems, just as too little. The traditional knowledge system need not be always optimal. In this case, they were not optimal. But we don't have, for large number of people, millions of people, still we don't have a DIY solution that they can use, do-it-yourself solution, which they can assemble at home and get rid of this problem, which scientifically, at least from my assessment, is possible from what you have. What is preventing a solution or a group of solutions being put together, reaching millions of people rather than only dozens or hundreds or thousands of people? This is an argument which leads to next question. Licensing cannot be the only route for breakthrough. Yes, licensing is important, generates revenue. But the entrepreneur who is licensing your technology, I noticed in that sheet that you have given to the ministry, it is mentioned what is the current state of commercialization. Some entrepreneur has sold 20 units, some has sold 200 units. That kind of numbers were there. Nothing a million, nothing 10,000, nothing 100,000. Not in one case. How will it reach 100,000? We need is for millions. The problem is very widespread. That will require a different approach in delivering solutions. So there are different kinds of exclusion that take place in our society: sectoral, spatial, seasonal, skill-based, and of course, social exclusion and the structure of governance. I will not go into detail, but what is important is that different constraints have to be overcome while delivering solutions. And these constraints, the scientists may not always be in the best position to realize because they're concerned about their own discipline, where these dimensions of social interface are not something that they have been trained to think about. And I don't think everybody needs to become expert in everything. That's not possible. So why don't we take help of those who can do that so that the technology which is accessible, affordable, also becomes available? And that's a challenge that we have to take. So I'll give you a few examples. This student, Kritika Ramchandran, under Professor Karnik in MIT, I have been to his lab, used pine tree xylem. You know, xylem and phloem, one takes water from top to bottom and from bottom to top, correct? Such a beautiful solution. In a tube, put the pine xylem wood, and it filters water not only to remove E. coli, as you will see in the next slide, but also the rotavirus, virus. Which filter do we have which removes viruses? And she published in Nature Communication. Now, the point I'm making is there's no trade-off between developing a robust, simple, do-it-yourself solution and publishing it in a good journal. You can fulfill one scientific aspiration, publish in top journal, Nature Communications, and at the same time, also develop solutions which are robust. And both are, there's no trade-off between the two. So somebody cannot say, if I have to work for society, then I will not get good publication. That's not true. Certainly not true. So it is very important that we realize that simple solutions can be developed. Why didn't we think about it? Simple process. We all know that in trees, movement of fluid is taking place, and the nature has designed these channels. So breakthrough requires also learning from nature and seeing how nature solves that problem. And we all know the discipline of biomimicry and many others which can generate solutions. Now I will give you some solutions by our students. Because I'm teaching a course with along my colleague, Dr. Namika, under CSIR on innovation, grassroots innovations and meeting the unmet need. And this group of students from IIST Guwahati, because many institutions are now affiliated to CSIR codes, from Ministry of Environment and many Earth Sciences and many others. So these students developed a growth promoter and went back to the communities to give them the solution and explain how it works. Something that we had not done for a long time. And I think it's a great idea. When students get in touch with the users, you will get a feeling, you will get an energy, you will get motivation that is no substitute. It will remain with us for all the time. Let's take another case from Niri. These students realized that, and something that all of us, or a large number of us know, that ash of rice husk has very high content of silica. Isn't it? So they used that silica and made a paint, a mineral paint. Equivalent of that will cost about 600 rupees a liter. Their cost was 200, but that was because they made 1 liter. If they make 1,000 liters, the cost might come to 150 rupees or 100 rupees or even 50 rupees. And what is great about this paint is it is resistant to acid, alkali, heat, humidity, impact, scratches, and water. You are giving so many virtues. And where did they grow? In Bharatiya Samaj Seva Sansthan, Vradhashram, in old age home, they went and painted, got the wall painted with that paint. I'm sure they would have got blessings of the elderly people. वो आशीर्वाद उन लोगों का कभी भी उनकी जिंदगी से जाने वाला नहीं है. That is the power of sharing your research findings with the people. There is no substitute to that blessing. Please appreciate. Whatever publication you make, whatever patents you file, whatever rewards you may get, the blessings of the users who are satisfied with their solution, particularly those who may not be reached, who will go to old age home. God bless these students who thought of going to a place like this in Chandrapur, here in Nagpur, and deliver this solution. A low cost, high impact solution, which is better than the available solutions in the market, and uses materials which are easily available also. Now, sharing research finding with the communities makes a lot of sense. So how do we bring this culture in our life, in our organization? This is the triangle that Gyan used when we set up Gyan in 97, bringing innovation, investment, enterprise. I will be a good innovator. I may not have entrepreneurial skill. I have entrepreneurial skill, but I don't have investment. And all the three skills are different and not always at one place in one person. Bringing them together is a challenge. And that's a challenge that CSIR has to overcome. And it is possible. It is possible because they are located in different places. So let me give one example of how my colleague who set up a small startup, Anamika, did it. They developed a pain oil. And then the names of the committee members whose knowledge made this oil possible, Paindel, are put on the label. Have you seen any product in the market which has name of inventors on the label? In Europe or US either, not just in India. That means if Europe and US don't put the name of knowledge holders on the product, we will also not do it? No, we can. In other words, we have to develop innovations also in business models, not just in technologies. And such innovations which will make us proud of what we are doing, and gratitude. Please appreciate the gratitude capital is very precious. Abhar. When we are grateful to people who help us, that gives you so much solace and so much energy and so much satisfaction that you never get tired. You're never disappointed in life. Now, this is another example. There was a pea found in Gurej Valley where we had a Shodhyatra, and this has good protein content and low phytate. What do phytates do? As some of you might know, it causes flatulence. So for elderly and for children and for pregnant women, it's very good. This is another example. But before I go to the example, how many of you have consumed flaxseed? Almost everybody? It used to be sold at 100 rupees a quintal and fed to the horses. Today, all of us on our table find flaxseed as a source of omega-3 and 6 fatty acid. What value who added the value? Scientist. What did they do? Characterization. Nothing else changed. Same flaxseed. Same way of cultivation. Same variety. Nothing more. Just characterization can add so much value. And this, to me, seems another frontier to make breakthrough. So our lab, which have good chemical analysis facilities, work with communities and our honeybee network and other organizations, other networks, and get the low value resources, but available abundantly or abundant resources, abundant and abundant. We were in Balia and Gazipur Shodhyatra. In every village, we found corn silk. When you peel the cob, there are silky, every seed has a styled stigma, you know that botanical description. So every seed has a fiber that goes out where pollination takes place. When pollination takes place, it becomes brown. Earlier it is green. It is thrown away. Has anybody used it, this corn silk, when you have eaten corn? No? I take tea of this corn silk every day in the morning. It has very high antioxidants. It's very good for prostate, which at my age becomes necessary, and UTI, and for liver and kidney and so on. Now, this resource which is being thrown away by the farmers can get more income than the corn crop. Who can do that? Science. Now tell me what can be more impactful science than getting a new use, a precious use. So with 5 mg of corn silk in a tea sachet, you will get 10 rupees, mind you. The whole cob doesn't cost 10 rupees. Powerful, isn't it? Why not? Why not? So therefore, there is a huge power in scientific minds which can characterize, conserve, characterize, and commercialize. Now, let me give you this example. TIGS, you know Dr. Akshay Mishra, former director CCMP, is now director of Tata Institute of Genetics and Society, and I was on their board. So I requested them. We have got 30 different kinds of kidney bean from Nagaland, Kifre, under a DBT project in Baramulla, Kashmir, Sikkim, and Nagaland. Dr. Anamika Chair coordinates that. And I said, can you help us characterize? So they did it. And they found 6 of these beans, rajma, which had more iron content than any other pulse. 60% women are anemic in our country, at least 50%. Why they are anemic is a separate issue, but I can tell you that one of the major reasons for that is all iron vessels have gone out of our kitchen. Even the karchi, the ladle, has gone out of our kitchen. So it's a self-imposed problem. Don't mind my saying this, but it's a self-imposed problem by women. 60% are not poor, 50% are not poor. Poor maybe 5-7%, 10% people. The rest are well off. They can afford. But the modernity has told us that we should take non-stick vessels. But non-stick vessels don't have iron. Simple answer. Anyhow, but if you can't do that, because inorganic iron is not easy to digest, you have to put some lemon, make it bioavailable. Here, it's a bioavailable form of iron. These communities are extremely deprived economically. Kifre is much less developed. There is an entire district, there is only one doctor in the central in the district headquarters. The block level hospitals are run by nurses, no doctors. In that situation, if we increase the income of these people by characterizing these kind of resources, they will be able to afford better infrastructure and better facilities. I'll give you another example. This was a knowledge of 6 communities in Gujarat we found who had skin solutions for skin diseases, pulled it in our lab, licensed it. The company which licensed it invited the innovators at the launch, and they get royalty. Here, a company in Hyderabad got license, and the photograph of the innovator whose knowledge made this product possible was given on the label. What I'm trying to say is a gratitude, recognizing people whose knowledge make this product possible will strengthen the relationship of science and society in a manner that nothing else will do as much. Because we are accountable, we are ethical, We are being responsible, and people appreciate that. Who will not appreciate if we are doing all the three things? So it is possible that we can do this, and it will bring consumer confidence at the same time. Consumers say, "Oh, that's the person whose knowledge is making useful. I'm happy that I can contribute to that person's life a little bit." Coming to Shodhyatras, in summer we go to hot places, winter we go to cold places, autumn we go to Himalaya. Voluntary suffering is a time-tested practice of our country, in our society, of becoming humble and of expressing your limited knowledge openly. There's a lot to learn, and there's no harm in making it obvious so that we can hear things that we will not otherwise hear. So we go to different terrain. There are 4 teachers from whom we learn: teacher within, teacher around among the peers, teacher in nature, and teacher among common people. 4 teachers we learn from every summer, winter, autumn. And there's also a course, so therefore in IMA, where I still teach along with my colleagues. And this brings knowledge to us every summer, every autumn, every winter. So last Shodhyatra, 52nd Shodhyatra was in Katihar, Bihar, in winter. And the summer one was in Nagaur, Rajasthan. So the advantage is that when you have these walks, you discover such facets of our society. First of all, our people are very generous, very kind, and you absorb that feeling, that spirit. You get doubly charged and become more responsible and more motivated to serve them in whatever way we can. So our energy level goes up when we enjoy that hospitality. So how do we reach masses? I'll just close by a few examples. We have Krishi Vigyan Kendras. You mentioned that you tried it, but I thought that it is something we can still try. Self-help groups are there, 100,000 self-help groups, several 100,000. We have farmer producers organization. None of them are at this moment target group of delivering new scientific and technological findings. I'm meeting NABARD chairman on first. Today I talked to the top management. I was telling them that, look, there's such a big gap. You have so many groups in the country. None of them are getting any feedback, any input about how they can make their life better by the solutions that CSIR has, ICMR has, ICR has, and grassroots innovations are there. We are not able to deliver to them. A challenge. Similarly, we have 140,000 post offices covering 650,000 villages of our country. One post office for 4 villages. We can reach every single village in 1 year. Imagine if you had DIY, a poster of DIY solution for rural areas and for different target group, different agroclimatic zones, and we send them to all the post offices, 5 copies. Please paste them, and we'll pay for that to the postal department, 5 rupees. We did it in Gujarat, and we paid 5 rupees to postal department, 18,000 villages, 90,000 rupees we had to spend. And we could get poster pasted on panchayat office, bill collection center, and a school, 3 places, 3 posters every village. At least somebody will read them. Somebody will get the message. This is possible. Somebody may call us. Somebody may write to us. Even if response rate is 2 to 3%, which is what generally mail order response rate is, not bad. How would we reach those villages otherwise? Tell me. And how many centuries will take us to reach all the 650,000 villages? So no slow track movement. One time, all 650,000 villages. Very simple. Every quarter, a new poster. Cost is not too much. 35 lakh rupees per quarter. In 1 crore rupees or to 1.5 crore, I am reaching every single village 4 times a year with different solutions that we have. Somebody will pick up some idea. Somebody will pick up, and that person who picks up is our new collaborator. And we don't know who that person is. There is no theory, there is no technology by which I can discover that person. So I have to try and see this process. So randomization is a good idea sometimes when you have a lot of uncertainty and there is no mechanism by which you can reduce the uncertainty. Randomization is the best rule. This is an example, Divankar, ISCB student in a class. I asked all of them to talk to their grandparents and bring some knowledge. So she brought this knowledge from his grandmother, marigold leaf. And this was tested in this paper in 2020 and compared with turmeric. And look at this. So in the animals, they have done experiment and they found that not only the marigold leaf is as good as turmeric, but it is better than turmeric in the regeneration and the healing of wound. How many of you knew about that? Tell me honestly, how many of you knew that? 1, 2, 3. Correct. But my question is, if 4 people know in this lab, in this room, and it is better than turmeric in some respect, and it is low cost, and it is science-based, what is the harm in democratizing this knowledge? Our footprint, our impact on society can be right away. A lot of poor people, the workers, can know these solutions and improve their life. They can't afford to buy things. Don't buy, just use it yourself. Science-based solution. You can further test it and confirm it if you want to. I don't mind if this solution is not enough. But if it can improve, why not? My question is, the impact on society gives a different kind of joy than revenue from licensing, and both are important. I'm not saying one is substitute of another. We need both. But I'm focusing more on impact because that is something the society also wants. So now I'll give you an example of what kind of science we need to do. So this person, Shatrughan Prasad Vaidya, a knowledge was documented from him. Patent was filed in US, granted. He is the healer. And then ICMR lab, virology lab in Kolkata did research. They find all these antibiotics listed at the bottom of the table, these strains of typhoid which were resistant to these antibiotics responded to this extract. That's amazing, isn't it? AMR is a big problem. And then we filed patent in the US. Incidentally, TKDL opposed it, and we won against it. Because their opposition was based on a fever claim of fever for this plant. And we argued that it is not an ordinary fever, it is a typhoid fever, alternate. And then USPTO accepted our contention and granted this patent in US. And then the interesting thing is, the scientists made this healer as a co-author. That's good science. Now, please appreciate, healer would not know what this co-authorship is. They won't be affected by this. It doesn't matter to them. It matters to us. When we as a scientist feel good about ourselves, because when we do something right, we feel good about ourselves. That feeling of goodness about ourselves is a great motivational power. It makes me feel good and energizes me to do more such work. That was very nice. Shanta Datta, you might know, and many other professors you might know. And then the research was done. Another case, I had a whitewash in my house, and worker got affected. He went out after some time. I said, shall I bring some medicine? He said, no, just give me 1 minute. Came back and the blood had stopped. So I said, what did you do? Sir, we had removed the cobwebs, the spider web from the wall. I applied that and the clotting took place. Actually, this protein is very powerful. It clots immediately, almost instantaneously. And there are so many papers on that. So much so that silk protein can be used for so many other. It has plasticity and it has strength. And this paper is saying there is no material available to us which has both these properties in this manner. A material science scientist is publishing a paper on silk protein. My question is, we have not done this kind of discussion. So why are we not discussing this when this knowledge is available with our workers and is so easily accessible? This is another example of foot and mouth disease. In Gujarat, they put milk on the hoofs of the cattle. In Andhra Pradesh, they put hands in a pot of milk while transplanting tobacco seedling. When I was a child, the landlady put her breast milk in my ear when I had a pain. And I asked this question in a conference of 1988. Plant Physiology and Biochemistry Conference. Dr. Sinha, at that time, for later he became director of IRA. He was the head of the chief of the conference. I asked this question after my lecture as to what is the common connection in these three observations. I don't know. The one doctoral student from CCMB, Dattananda, came to me at tea time and said, "Sir, both these viruses are type 2 RNA viruses. The foot-and-mouth disease and TMV. And the hypothesis is that after the protease cuts the protein coat, the RNAs in the milk might be inactivating it." So basic science hypothesis is coming up from a very practical knowledge. And there are a lot of research papers on this. There are papers on using whey milk. Can applying milk to tools and plant be effective? And Ministry of Agriculture and Food in Manitoba, Ontario, give the recommendation saying that this is as good as anything else in the world for making your tools in the nursery and gardens free from virus. Why don't we have such recommendations in our country? Practices exist in our country. Recommendations don't. So one of the challenges is that when we have science-based solutions, getting them into the recommendations for different disciplines, for different. So as you were giving example that you wanted to persuade the ICR and to include that plant variety, and that's the kind of challenge we have to overcome that, and that will sometime maybe requiring at the highest level. We have to go to the Prime Minister and tell him that look, we can't indefinitely wait for these solutions to reach people. We have to get them as quickly as possible delivered to the people because they're effective. Our scientists confirm that. Let us clear the red tape and issue directions that they will have to do that. If any recommendation of this kind comes from ICR, it will be, or CSIR, it will be given priority and will be processed. And it will happen. I'm sure it will happen someday. So this is the kind of examples which we have. Solution, again, this is a paper when I was in NIF till 2018. You can see the name of the innovator as the first author, and other people are mentioned there. That's the kind of culture we need to create. Let me close by giving an example. In the educational system for students, we need to bring a little more exposure to solving problem at low cost, frugal solutions, and understand that these solutions can come from children. So this girl was in class 8th when she said, "Can this walker have front leg as flexible?" She didn't make anything. She just sent us 2 lines. Our team made it possible. So when you climb up, the front leg becomes shorter. When you climb down, it becomes taller. Such walker does not exist in US, Europe, Japan, anywhere. It's a universal solution, conceived by a student, delivered by the engineers. And that's possible. That's possible. That's possible. And this was licensed to a company. So let me come to the last point. Gandhiji was facing a problem. In 1920 to 1929, he spent almost 10 years in addressing this problem of spinning wheel, which he felt, Bhave told him, will not give enough income with this design to remove poverty. So he said then, how can I advise people to do spinning? This will not be a solution. So let us redesign. So he gave an award of 5,000 didn't work, 7,000 didn't work rupees. Then he announced an award on 7,700 pounds, which is 1 lakh rupee of that time, today 10 crore. A challenge award, 24 July 1929. By 31, when he went to Yerwada jail, he had this Peti Charkha, this one. That's the power of challenge award. What he couldn't do in 10 years, he could do in 2 years. How many challenge awards have been announced? And we were discussing just a little while ago that we must issue challenge awards. CSIR can issue challenge award that, okay, we are looking for a material of this property. Anybody who can develop this and give it to us will get 20 lakh, 50 lakh, whatever we think is the cost of R&D for that kind of work, we offer as a grant. So let the whole society be galvanized to think about strategic problems or mass use problems, and we mobilize the society's inherent energy of solving problems and make the whole society a lab. 25 crore people travel by train every day. When did we tell them, for example, just to give you a simple example, that washing vegetable after cutting is not good, cutting after washing is better? So free amino acids are not trained. How many people, some of you might be doing the same mistake that you may cut and then wash. 10 rupees nutrient, you have gotten only 4 rupees worth of nutrient, rest have gone away in the drainage. Like that, marigold leaf is as good as turmeric, mix them and then use for wound healing. All these messages which our scientists are developing need to go to masses. And we need to reach them as early as we can. And we need to reach them all large number of people at the same time. So 25 crore people to get some messages every day in the train. And we should make it possible. And you have to meet Mr. Vaishnav. And he's a smart person. He will understand your point. And it doesn't cost much. And then similarly, the challenges that we need to have can also be issued. And who knows, one among the 25 crore people who are traveling by train would have an idea which can solve that problem that we have been struggling with. And wonderful. And we will celebrate that person and that person's creativity. And we have no easy way to discover that person. Is there a theory by which I can spot and use AI tool and put on the figure of images of the people and say this person has the idea? I don't know. There is no mathematical logic for that. So let me just close by saying, what are the takeaways? Going beyond the felt need and also focusing on unfelt need. But needs that we think we can deliver, we need to deliver, we must deliver. And those will be the breakthrough ideas because we have not been able to. I was told that 30 lakh people have been screened for sickle cell anemia. Now, with that kind of data, we can do wonders in terms of research. We will know the patterns of intensity of infestation with the different kinds of genetic markers and so on. Meeting the felt need through partnership with small communities. How many times I had a suggestion that we should have an extension division in CSIR. Our people will go to different clusters of industries, ceramic cluster, let's say Khurja or wherever, and present to all the entrepreneurs in the evening or sometime when they're free, the new ideas that we have, new solutions that we have. We will not wait for them to approach us. Now we need a team of people. We can even give our students a challenge that every student will spend at least 1 week in going to the cluster in his discipline or her discipline and present to that cluster of entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, our possible solutions that they can use. How else will we reach large number of small companies? And you know, we need at least 1.5 crore jobs every year just to get new workforce. Existing people, separate. Who will generate the jobs? Not the large companies, small entrepreneurs. And the small entrepreneurs, if they don't become efficient, how will they generate more jobs? Today, it is difficult for them to survive under such conditions. And with all this tariff war that is going on in the world, their life is going to become tough. At such situation, our technologies can help and give them respite, some breathing time to adjust and adapt to the global changes that are taking place. And I think we should do something about it. DIY solutions, how do we reach? Traditional knowledge, how do we leverage? An extension wing, how do we create that to reach masses? I'm an impatient person. And I think we should do, there's only one life to live. And I can't wait for solutions to find their own pathway. Not easy. You don't have, I was stunned by hearing the kind of bureaucratic roadblock that you have solved. You know, sitting 5 secretaries, 3 secretaries sit together and resolve matters in hours, forget about days and weeks. That's amazing. I think this is the new culture that we are witnessing, and I'm very appreciative of that. But even then, we need new pathways to reach the entrepreneurs. Challenge awards. So I'll just close by saying creativity counts, knowledge matters. Incentives inspire, but not just material incentives or cash incentives, but also non-material incentives, collective incentives. And innovations transform. I would think for a particular young scientist, not easy, you know, there's a hierarchy and there are protocols and so on. Cutting all that tape, direct access to the scientists who have made an interesting discovery, which has potential beyond their imagination and burdening them with resources. Now there is nothing which will come in your way of taking it forward. Tell me what all you need and we'll make it possible. So when you put responsibilities on the shoulder That is also a way of recognition, that asking them to do more work than less. But when you ask them more because you are showing more trust on them, and that is a great recognition. Young people must be trusted, but also burdened with a lot of expectations. And I think that's what our society needs. Thank you so much.
If we have any, sir, can we take some questions if we have here?
Sure.
Oh. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm Professor Tanu Jindal, Group Prof R&D with the MIT University. What are your views on, carbon sequestration, carbon capture, utilization and storage is one of the main challenge nowadays to reduce global warming. So yesterday I was attending a meeting on CCUS. So they have problem of CO2 absorption mixed with SOx, NOx, CO, ozone, etc. So how about the algae? Algae is natural thing and it will purely take, CO2 from atmosphere. Solving all the issues of, contamination of CO2 absorption from atmosphere. So what are your views on that? If we promote such technologies of natural solution rather than, mimicking them in biochemist for absorption of CO2, I would like to,
It's very interesting that biochar, which is being popularized,
yes,
is very costly solution, not viable. At the moment in our country, experiments are being done. CSIR labs are also working. Some of our students are also working. PhD students are working. But that is a good solution, but very costly solution. We, at this moment, I don't find in the next 10 years we can afford biochar from. So I think that what you mentioned is a good idea. Algae is very good, but only thing we should remember is that there is a trade-off. Too much of algae can kill a lake, and too little will not make it possible for us to sequester. So an optimal growth of algae, and therefore the CSIR has developed very good technology for growth of seaweed and others, which are very powerful means of sequestration. So I would say that if we can use that technology, that will go much farther. It doesn't clog the other functions of the aquatic system, and at the same time gives you very high sequestration rate. So I think we should make a trade-off between not too much and not too little, and optimal growth levels. But that's very, we know because as the pollution increases and as the exudates go to the sea, the plankton and everything else will come down. So a lot of our water bodies are very polluted today. You know about Yamuna, you know about all of that. So therefore, this problem is not de-linked from the other systems of keeping pollution control.
Yeah, if the algae can do bioremediation as well, I think it will solve the dual purpose.
It is very useful growth promoter.
Yes. Yeah.
The seaweed is one of the best promoter of growth. You just take the extract and spray on the crop and you see the flowering. Such a powerful solution.
Thank you so much.
Any other? Yeah.
Namaskar, sir. Sir, I have worked on innovations some time back. So innovations definition is critical because innovation definitions means ki something additions on the existing environment or science. And that innovation is different for the Northeast people, rural peoples, and then IIT peoples. So when the innovations come from the Northeast or rural sciences and come before the IITs or CSIR scientists, they say that this is vague. So what exactly in definition of innovations?
See, there is a student, young fellow, Navjit Bharali from Guwahati. He had a conference recently at IMA, 5th ICCIG International Conference on Creativity and Innovation and Grassroots, and we invited him there. He has developed a low-cost water extractor from the air to irrigate your pot. So you have a solar system, small solar panel, which runs this water extractor. It extracts, condenses the water from the air, makes it available to the plant. You're traveling, your plants are safe. Now tell me, has anybody developed such a low-cost domestic use water extractor? You can use it in deserts, you can use it in various places where water is scarce. This boy has also developed several other innovations. You take your foot head forward, a spoon will pick up the things from the plate and bring it to your mouth. For upper limb immobilized people, you take the spoon food and then take the head back and the spoon will go down. 1,500 rupees. What are very good solutions? They need good support of people who will make the solution robust. I recently put him in touch with IIT Guwahati, Professor Das in design school, design department, to make their solution robust. Because many of them develop proof of concept and they're not able to develop robustness. Large number of grassroots innovators face this problem that they are not able to get the good new materials are not. Their materials are 30 or 40-year-old material they're using. So innovation is when either you have a new method, new material, new application, or a new delivery system. One of the four, as I said, should be new if for a solution to be called as innovative. And sometimes traditional knowledge of one context can become innovation in another context. People who are not aware of that. So there is a huge lot of scope for innovations to be found. And there is no place in the country where we have not found innovations. We have walked through every state of the country. Not a single state. In fact, Odisha, during Barpali, Bargar district, we found maximum innovation there. Not a day passed when we didn't find innovation. That has not happened often in the Shodhyatra, that every day you find an innovation. There are others, maybe because of stress, maybe because of historical reason, maybe because of different reasons. But there are hotspots of creativity. Southern India is more innovative than Northern India. By the other thing being equal, I'm saying with little hesitation, but I don't want to create a conflict. But I'm just saying the data was, from the data we are speaking, we get more from Southern India and West India, much less from North and some part. But from Northeast, we are getting a lot of innovations.